Nick, we're talking about Hereditary, and we're talking about the theories of Hereditary. So this is one of those movies where there's a lot going on here. It's not the most basic, simple movie. I mean, I love Serial Mom, but Serial Mom's pretty basic, scene by scene. You know what's going on. This is one of those movies where I had to put on my glasses to watch it, but that's because I can't see. That's not because
I was
I
about to
couldn't
say.
get. But I wanted to be able to see the background, the details of the background,
For all
and I
I
needed
know,
my
you're
glasses.
probably on your phone while watching it the first time, and then
Yeah, yeah. I was on the phone going, "What the hell is going on here?"
yeah,
No,
you need to literally keep your eyes on the screen the entire 2 hours and 7 minutes.
no. Once the movie started, I chucked my phone to the other side of the room and said, "Listen, this is a movie I can tell I'm gonna have to really pay attention to." And I did, and I gave it 2 watches. So let's break down Hereditary. Now, for the audience, I'm gonna preface with this. If you really want to get into the minute details of this movie, there's an amazing 4-hour video someone did on YouTube that really breaks down every single thing of the movie, every single thing about the mythology, everything about the characters, what's actually happening each scene. We're gonna give more of a broad strokes review here, but to really get in the details, I recommend this 4-hour video. And it's broken into chapters where you can just like pick out specific things about the movie if you're curious about it, to know about. But okay, my understanding is that the movie is based on a family. Well, let's say a woman who heavy into a cult or big time cult for this demon called Payman, and her whole thing is to basically bring Payman back in the form of a human body. Now, Nick, did you notice that she mentioned Tony Collette's character mentioned in therapy that her brother had killed himself?
Yes, because his mother was trying to put other people inside him.
Our first clue, because obviously that means that the initial plan was to put it in Tony Collette's brother, Payman, but maybe the guy actually found out and then killed himself. So, because he's like, hey, she's trying to put someone into me, so I'm gonna just hang myself. And so that's one hint there. And then from there, the grandmother puts pressure on her to have children, wants her to have children, but Annie, who is played by Tony Collette, is a little bit wary of her mom, has a bad relationship with her. So the first child, Peter, she does not let her have a relationship with Peter. So Peter's safe for now, I guess for 16, 17 years of life, safe from the demonic possession. But by the time his little sister Charlie comes around, she is, well, Annie's had a bit of she's reconciled with the mom a little bit. So now mom can come around and breastfeed Charlie, was it?
No, so we don't know 100% how the grandmother was feeding Charlie, but the diagram was showing. Now, also at the same point, probably need to mention that the grandmother was suffering from uh, dissociative identity disorder
Mm,
and dementia around the early onset dementia when Charlie was born,
wow.
allegedly. Again, with this being a cult kind of movie, that could just have been a front. But
I do you subscribe to the idea? So there are theories that, because the first half of the movie does play in a way basically where just kind of similar to The Witch, where you can kind of make the argument maybe this is just all inside their heads kind of thing. Like this is all just some mental disorder, mental illness, everything by Annie is being imagined. The family's going to have an episode. These movies always kind of play on that a little bit, but this movie plays heavy on the idea, at first at least, that this could all be like a schizophrenic episode or something going on with the family mentally versus actually anything supernatural. So, and by the mom having those problems, it would make sense that hereditarily that those mental orders may have passed down. Of course, by the end of the movie, we get enough supernatural evidence probably to disprove that. But at least in the first half, I'm like, okay, is this mental illness or is this actually happening? So, but I'm
yeah,
sorry, you were saying.
yeah, but because of that, we don't know how the grandmother's actual state of mind was. But in the diagram that in this clay house that the mother is building, she does show a little bit with Tony Collette's character, with Annie's model being in bed, holding a model of baby Charlie, and then the grandmother next to him with her breast out, wanting to breastfeed Charlie. It's like,
Hmm.
now I don't know if that's how that works. I'm pretty sure it doesn't. you know. But
Well, not to have kids, but we can say there definitely was some shenanigans going on there because whatever method she was using, she definitely was imprinting the demon payment into Charlie.
what I think I know how they did that. They put baby on a star or a
Mhm.
pentagram, and then the cult did the summoning ritual and put payment into baby.
So the directors came out and said basically that pretty much from birth, Charlie was infected with payment.
Yes.
Um, so in these early scenes, we see the movie basically where you can tell Charlie's a little bit off as a kid. I mean, she's normal enough, but there's definitely some weird behavior, some pigeon activity that doesn't seem like a normal kid would do that. Um,
Probably
and
not, but
and you gotta admit, the way she eats a candy bar is definitely suspicious. Nobody eats a damn chocolate bar like that. All right.
why
Um,
not? What's wrong with the way she was eating it? She was just um. I mean, that's how I eat my chocolate bars. So, I'll even eat a Kit Kat bar like that.
no, she was devouring that thing with an emotionless void on her face. Oh,
Well, you know why, right?
she
Because I
she
bet
was
you anything.
she was zombified by the chocolate. So
What I think it is either Payman really loves chocolate, or he was hoping that that chocolate had had nuts in it.
that's my question is basically that it seems like is it possible that pretty much it's a mix of payment, but there's still some Charlie in there because wouldn't like if it was all payment controlling it, wouldn't payment have like I guess like okay, for example, at the party, right? When she gets the nut allergy and
Mm-hmm.
she's freaking out basically, she's still acting like a kid in trouble though, like a kid who's like trying to save her own life. Like it's not like all there's still Charlie in there, but it's like payment's influencing her.
So I can
You know?
tell you exactly what's going on here. Uh, Later, and this is more of a plot thing. Later down in the movie, you find out Payman wants a male body.
Right.
However, since he's stuck in Charlie, that means he needs to get rid of the body he's currently inhabiting.
Yes. So
Which,
he's influencing her, but
yes,
it's not like Charlie's personality is 100% payment.
right.
There's like a there's a mix. There's like Charlie, and then there's Payman kind of like in her head or present in her body, maybe influencing certain things like cutting off the pigeon's head, all this stuff,
Mm.
but not full blown like, okay, I'm controlling this body so I can just go throw this body off a cliff. Like
Yeah,
Charlie
but
still has to have some say in the matter. So
yeah. So I actually thought you were going a different way with why Payman wasn't helping Charlie when she was having the allergic reaction. Because I
oh
thought that's
well
where you were about to take it.
well, yeah, and I wasn't even skipping that far ahead yet. I was saying basically that it's Payman and Charlie, but like I said, it's just like it's kind of a mix of them. Payman has some control, but he's not 100% influencing everything she does. Like, but obviously it's enough so that she's kind of a strange kid.
Hmm.
Um, so okay, so then we can kind of go further a little bit. The mom has died recently, so we get this funeral scene where there's a lot of uh, uh, unknown people to Tony Collette's character Annie, which we'll find out later. These are all the members of the cult, coming, of course, to pay respects to one of the most celebrated members who has died.
Yes,
Um,
including putting some herbs on her lips.
well, of course, because she's in hell, and she needs some kind of herb to help her in hell. So,
Yeah, I bet it was
um,
shrimp herbs.
yeah, and these are probably the same herbs that were fed to Charlie as a child to help Payman get inside of her. But you're right. This movie is basically about the plot. Really is about Payman's quest to transfer from a girl's body to a boy's body because um, he doesn't want to be in a girl's body. He wants to be in a boy's body. So the plan here, the whole movie, the plan is to get
Such a
into Peter's body.
misogynistic demon.
Well, you do kind of think about the idea of like, why does a demon actually care about the human body vessel that he's inhibiting? It's like you're a demon, dude. Don't you have like bigger things? Like that part of the story is kind of like, would a demon care that much about the random human vessel? I mean, I don't know.
I feel like a demon would
Does it
care.
does a demon deal with such like our genders and stuff? Does a demon actually care about these things? Like,
I feel like a demon would care more about a vessel that could actually handle the presence of Payman being inside him more than wanting to make sure it's just male.
basically, like for the demon to actually be in the world and handle things, he doesn't want to be in like, okay, so basically the demon's a bad fit with her body, and maybe that's why she has health issues. She has this nut allergy. These things might be just because Payman's trying to like he's having a bad interference with her body, and
Or
he's like,
he's
this,
just trying to kill her.
yeah. Well, he realizes his body's too weak for him to actually. He can't be like a king or queen in this world with this body. Um, but yeah, I don't know. It's like kind of like from the beginning though, they were trying to get him into a boy, so they tried. The grandmother tried to get him
The
into the
brother. Or
didn't we didn't see evidence of her trying to get her into to Annie. So from the beginning, they knew like, okay, he prefers to be in a boy's body. They were trying to get into a boy's body. Um. So okay, so that's the goal here. So basically, yes, the Payman has to kill off his current human vessel, and then he has to make Peter vulnerable enough to where he can get into his body. This has been the plan for years. So this family was always doomed pretty much. As soon as Payman was put into Charlie, this family was pretty much doomed. There's really no way to prevent this ish from happening.
there was a one slight way to prevent it. You're right. Well, as soon as Payman was in Charlie, strings are getting pulled. But there's a one real close way of preventing this. Stay away from the grandma.
Yeah.
Before, don't reconcile. If you had to cut contact with her at one point, there's probably a reason for that.
Yeah, but okay, now take it to the real world, basically, where you know you're just a normal family. You're not thinking demons and cults and things. You're thinking, oh, my grandmother's trying to, or my mom's trying to reconcile with me. You're not thinking there's a sinister motivation to put a demon into my child. I mean,
Oh no, you're
maybe
not.
she's
But
thinking that,
at the
but
same time, if you had to cut contact with her for a reason, you should probably keep that contact cut.
well, Annie in the therapy session, she basically regrets that because she says that I brought her back and she immediately, you know, started like messing with with Charlie. Like, so she immediately regretted basically letting her back into her life, but she did. Um, so
I feel like that's the
yeah, I
husband's
mean,
fault. This husband,
ah,
he does. It's not the fact he seems like a pushover. It's the fact that he just wants peace so much that he will do anything for it, including letting people kind of walk on him. Because I feel like he probably talked to Annie and
mhm,
told her, "Hey, you seem a little depressed. How's your mom doing?"
hmm.
Because
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. Yeah, I mean, yeah, the husband at first to me seemed like a pushover, almost like kind of like just oblivious to things. But he kind of, now he kind of knew what was going on, but he was just like
he's trying to keep the peace.
keep the peace and like mainly for him, I guess his perspective as the movie goes on is just he cares much more about Peter. It feels like than his wife
Well,
because like
that's
his
because Peter is his son.
oh yeah. Well, okay, so let's talk about that for a second too. So, you point out that Peter doesn't really look like his parents. He looks
Well,
like he's from a different family.
well, that there's that. There's also the fact that the daughter doesn't look like the parents either. But that's a completely different reason altogether. um,
Okay. Well, I think the daughter does look a little bit like Toni Collette, but I mean, the daughter also just looks like completely different. Yeah, you're right, but not as different. I think as Peter looks like definitely like almost like a different ethnicity.
so
Um,
I did look it up because I was wondering, like, did they adopt Peter? What's going on here? Throughout the movie, it does make it sound like Toni Collette did have him naturally, and it does sound like Steve was the father. I looked it up. Apparently, it was just bad casting.
well,
Not in the form of they think Alex Wolff is a bad actor. It's the fact that Alex Wolff looks nothing like his parents.
there is a very That's most likely it, but there's story-wise, you can come up with a very, very, very sinister explanation, but it's very dark.
Well, now I got to hear this.
Well, something along the lines of
They kidnapped the baby.
no, it's something like the cult raping her, drugging her, raping her, impregnating her.
So
Um,
different father. Yeah. Okay.
basically the cult saying, okay, this is not working with it's not happening with the husband or something, and like we have to get a baby boy in this woman, and there's a scene in Rosemary's Baby where basically she dreams about a bunch of people raping her pretty much, and then she's suddenly pregnant. Um, it's a very sinister thing about the cult would go this far to do that, but that would be where Peter has a different father then, of course, then. So, eh, I mean, it's not
Yeah,
canon. It's just a theory. So,
but that would also make their the Annie and Peter's relationship soured in a sense because she has to in a sense relive what happened to her if that is the case.
no, no. The idea would have been this would have been something that she's not aware of. Like
Oh,
she was drugged or something to where she doesn't
or
know this happened because everything has to go along with like the husband thinking that hey, I got her pregnant. Like everything has to still go on because the husband clearly thinks that Peter is his son. There's no at no point. You're right. The relationship is kind of like you're thinking like he might be like oh my stepson or something, but he's clearly nothing said other than just him being his actual father. So again, it's a if you want to go deep in the roots, it's one sinister theory about if she's having trouble getting pregnant, the cult being like, "Okay, we're gonna make this happen to ensure Payman has a vessel."
so I would believe that more if there was someone in the cult that also looked like Alex Wolf.
Yeah. Well,
Uh,
yeah, I guess that's true. So okay, the the cult is pretty much everywhere in this movie. Um,
if
to
you see them, if they're smiling, that's the cult.
well, even to point, there's theories that when there's footprints in the household, that's basically because the father's always like, take your shoes off. That's apparently like the cult being in the house all time, pretty much. Um, well, we can talk about for a second. This I didn't think about when watching it. I read about it and I was like, what? Maybe? Okay, so how much of this movie is a design by the cult to get to where they want to get to? So we'll talk about Peter going to this party. And you mentioned Peter's friend that gives him drugs and stuff.
Yeah, but I
Cult.
just assume they're. Yeah, he's not doing the whole smiley bit. Like, because I'm
Is he
sorry,
not?
every time you see someone, even Joan is all the time just has that creepy smile.
Yeah, but think about this. The cult has this all set up basically. They're gonna surround in the town, they're gonna surround everybody. There's gonna be cult members everywhere, like surrounded to make sure this stuff happens. This whole party thing, maybe it seemed like some kind of innocent, oh, he likes a girl, he goes to the party, blah blah blah. Designed by the cult to get him to where they want him to get him. Um, the friend messages him like, "Hey, you ready to smoke?" The friend is always like, smoking with him, giving him weed and stuff like that. Um, there is a theory that what the friend is doing basically is giving him some kind of weed that has some stuff in it, the herbal stuff or something that's loosening his body up again, making him more open to getting payment inside of him. That would be smart. That's a way to do that. So there's that theory. Also the his friend in the classroom apparently had, or one of the people he's smoking with on the bleachers has a man bun hairstyle. Apparently, I have to go back and rewatch to see this, but in that last scene in the treehouse, one of the naked kids, people there, is somebody with the same exact man bun. Now
Mm.
that would be pretty intentional if that's the case. So
But
one of his smoking partners was there keeping an eye on him from the cult. Makes sense. Now with the girl, this is a little bit more trickier. So this is not concrete, but they put something in there to suggest it. So she has a Facebook page in the movie, right? And
like all girls do.
on her Facebook page, there's a couple of things. They show in one picture, apparently she has a bracelet on that mimics a bracelet that is either on the grandmother. It's in one of the pictures, basically. It's a very similar bracelet. But the other thing is on the Facebook page, it shows her real name, and her middle name apparently is like kind of like a funky name that has like an alternate meaning. So the middle name is some name for, I guess when they looked it up, it meant it was a not it was a demon or something who would lure sailors into like a bad situation where then something bad would
A,
happen to them.
a
But they're
siren, or
we we have to look it up. It's in that 4-hour video I was talking about. But basically, it's something that their job pretty much is to lure somebody into something, basically. So that was intentionally put on the Facebook page as her actual real middle name. So it's like those two things are kind of like, I mean,
or I mean,
yeah,
here's the other thing. They added that doesn't mean she's 100% in a cult. It just means that if you know the theory behind that, it's probably not one you want to follow because it will lead to your doom. Does not 100% mean you're in the cult. It's just some fun little thing for people who actually know this stuff. It's like, oh, that's neat.
sure, but
Could
it's
just be a
intent.
fun little Easter egg.
Sure, but it feels like you want to believe she's not in the cult, but she could be there
Be,
just sitting next to Peter to
be,
be in the cult
you know
to
why?
attract him. She looks okay. I'll give you an example. In that first classroom scene, she turns and looks at him.
You know why I don't believe she's in the cult?
Why?
She's not in the end.
Oh, but the end though, I don't think. Well,
I
we
feel
don't
like
know.
everyone who's part of the cult would be in
In the
or
treehouse,
around the area. Well, but not in the treehouse. There's not enough room for
there's
that.
not room. Well,
But
that's
in
the
or
thing.
around the area, because
But but that can be explained if that just they didn't show her though. So um, yeah, either way, it's possible. Like I said, the fact is, like I said, that Facebook page was intentionally. They have her wearing bracelets. They have her middle name being kind of odd. But you're right. It's just a theory, but
it sounds.
it's possible.
It also sounds a little bit kind of. I don't know why. Feeling like the entire town or most of the town would be a part of it kind of takes something out of it. It's like, well, then no matter what they do, they're doomed. So there's no point in me caring about this movie anymore
No,
because I
but
don't care if the family tries to make it out.
no, but that is the point. Like so I said, they were doomed from the beginning because a lot of people are in on this. I just think that you have to say like, okay, the cult is going to be very involved in Peter's life. If the idea is to like get this demon in his body, they are going to be like, okay, who do we know whose daughter or whose son has a class with him that can watch him? The fact that the kid smoking weed with him is in the cult also that easily suggests that.
Possibly in the cult.
Well, I think that it makes a lot of sense that he's giving him like some special weed, and that if they have how many kids in this town have a man bun? That's what because the
Well,
main thing
yeah,
is.
the
But
man bun is one story. That
well,
I can
again,
believe a little more.
but again, remember, this is not the director of Troll 2. The writer and director, he's putting a lot of stuff intentionally there in the background for you to figure out later on. There's a lot of detail here that's like not there's no like coincidences. He's like if he put someone with a man bun there, you have to think like, oh well, he's clearly connecting that. It just seems like probably it's there for a reason, but it makes sense to me that they would be having somebody like okay. So one theory also is that the teacher is I remember the cult because the teacher there's one scene where Peter is walking in the hallway pretty much, and you see like all the blue light and the presence of payment pretty much. And they show the classroom door, and in the classroom door, you see the teacher's face, like the door is shining basically with the blue light, and you see the teacher's face looking inside the door pretty much, looking out at Peter. So there's like one idea maybe the teacher's involved too, but
So, just bringing this up, the reason I mentioned that I don't like the fact that maybe the whole town is involved or most of the town is because then gives me no reason to watch the movie anymore. I have no way to believe that this family is ever going to make it out. Yeah, you're bringing it up. That's the point of it. And maybe on the first watch, you don't need to think of it that way. But the second watch since you already know the ending, sure. But yeah, it's
yeah, well,
like I want a chance for our characters to at least survive what's about to happen.
but I think that's why it's smart. I think that you play that in the background, so on the first watch, you really don't know that. So then you already know the ending. On the second watch, then you can go back and be like, oh shit, they were doomed from the beginning. But on the first watch, it has to be in the background. If it's just the one way you can do the background, the one way you can do it that still makes sense is that the more stacked you feel it is against your main characters, the more you're like, oh shit, how are they gonna get out of this? Like everything is against them. It just makes it that much better if they can actually get out of it.
No, it
But
just makes it more stupid if they actually got out of it.
I mean, every movie is like basically stacking the odds against the hero. Like, how is the hero going to overcome this? That's just movies 101. Like, they're not going to make it like, oh man, this is I see the easy way for the hero to win here. It's better if it's like just insurmountable odds, but it's played in the background. So you only on the second time you can be like, oh, he was in on it. He was in on it. He was in on it. I don't think it's the entire town. Again,
Sounds like it's most of the town from what you're
no,
describing.
no, it's literally just like someone in the cult being like, hey, my daughter has a class with him. Let's have her give him looks. My son smokes weed with him. Let's have him lace the weed with some. It's just in his life, they're gonna be like, it's not gonna be like they're gonna have a presence in his life. That's all. It doesn't have to be
You
like
froze. You froze
it
again
doesn't
for
like
a
it
second.
doesn't have to be like when he goes. It doesn't have to. It doesn't have to be like when he goes to the gas station. Like the gas attendant's like, "Yeah, Peter, you're next. Yeah, Peter." But it could be like in his classroom, somebody's watching him. At the party, somebody was watching him. There's no question that someone at the party was watching it from the cult, being like, "Okay, yep, she got the brownie or she got the cake. Oh, he's going. Yo, Pagan, do your thing. They're driving toward it, whatever. Like, but basically,
Payment.
like payment. I always say Pagan because I watched Midsummer last night. That's all. You notice that also when they go to the party, on the way there, there's like
There's nothing
the cult. No, there's a cult symbol is on the thing on the road.
on the
The
sign. Oh, the post that she hits her head on.
yeah, the cult sign's on that post, so it's already basically kind of guided to make this happen. Now look, theories aside, yes, when her head gets knocked off here, and the crazy thing about this movie is, you may not believe this, I didn't read anything about this beforehand at all, so I knew nothing about this movie in
Wait, is
terms of
that
the.
why the actress hasn't been in anything since her head actually got knocked off?
That's what I was gonna bring up. The fact that she took the sacrifice. No, no. There's there's method acting, but she didn't do all that. But I just want to still like I just want you to know like this was not spoiled for me. I had no idea what was about to happen. And
I knew it
coming
was
in like
happening.
I'm sure I'm almost positive that one thing everybody has to understand about Nick is that Nick, prior to becoming a movie reviewer, made the mistake of watching the kill count for every single horror movie he had never seen
To be
in
fair,
order to spoil that
there
for him.
is, to my knowledge, there is no kill count for Hereditary because only like what 2 people die,
I
or
guess
at
they
least
wouldn't.
are seen dead.
Well, I think the kill counts now are more
There's
like
an
almost
ending
like
explained on it.
aren't the kill counts more now like they actually do like full plot summaries and they throw in the
Well,
kills too, but now it's like
he pretty much always did full plot summaries. It's just more now he goes into the effects of the kills themselves.
gotcha. Well, look, I went in blind. I didn't watch the trailer even, so I didn't know what was happening. So I thought,
It wasn't in the trailer.
oh, even better, good. Um, but I thought that I thought when her head got hit off, I thought he was hallucinating that because I was like, there's no way this actually just happened. I was like, there's no way.
Until
And
the
then
next day.
well, so that
Actually,
whole
really, until he started like driving away slowly.
Well, the whole scene is based on a real story about a guy who his best friend, or one of his best friends, I guess, was in the car with him. Same thing happened, was drunk, put his head out, swerved, and then got his head. And obviously, the moral of these stories a lot of times are just like when you see a deer, just run over the deer, never swerve. Whenever you swerve, you're putting yourself in more danger than just going right through the deer. Um, but this is a real story about dude had just gone home and just went to bed basically.
With the
So I
body
mean,
still in the back seat.
it's a weird reaction because if you're thinking clearly, then obviously you're like, okay, I gotta call my mom, I gotta go to the hospital, something, right? To just literally park outside, go in, and go to sleep, it's like it's a very, very high level of shock to where you're actually like just like so or I mean he did smoke a lot of weed too. He might have been very sleepy, but I don't want to blame the weed for
I
this
feel
level
like
of
wouldn't you get the munchies first and then sleepy?
we didn't see. He could have stopped at the kitchen first, poured himself a bowl of Captain Crunch, and then went upstairs, had the bowl of Captain Crunch, and then went to sleep. We didn't see that
Yeah.
part. But the way they played it though, it's like it's heartbreaking because they stay with him and with the next morning, and I'm like, I'm thinking of like, I'm feeling extremely bad because I'm just like, my God, this is the worst moment I could possibly think of for someone. Because imagine you woke up and maybe it felt like it was like some bad dream last night, but then you hear the mom screaming like that. Holy cow. That was like, I was like, well, this is not, I was like, oh, this is the horror of the movie. This is a horror movie because of the situation, but I wasn't even thinking anything supernatural. I was like, oh, maybe this movie is just like the horror of the family drama because this is like,
I was about to say, because until
this is the most
Charlie
terrifying.
loses her
This is the
head,
most terrifying thing in the movie is this to me. So,
because
oh,
until Charlie loses her head, there has not been any kind of supernatural bit. I mean, you see cult members just staring at Charlie with that creepy ass grin, but there wasn't anything really supernatural going on.
at this point in the movie, it's a light family drama, and that really escalates from 1 to 10 here in this scene. This movie just goes bananas here. But even like the next 20 minutes after this, I would say are still just like still straight family drama.
No,
Dealing with
you hear like the tongue click here and there. You
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 sh-
get the shimmering a couple of times.
you get some things for sure, but you're dealing with like you have that dinner table scene where you know it's all just again dramatic family. It's a moment of like her being like nobody here is taking responsibility and like all this. Uh,
I
uh,
yeah
really,
that's a fun line for her to say because she's gonna start being the blame of the same thing here soon.
yeah, really until the character Joan, when Joan comes in the picture, she's gonna be the next sort of escalating thing. Joan, who was a friend and let's say fellow cult member
Fellow cult
to the
member.
mom, is now going to basically sucker Annie into eventually doing a seance. But I don't know if you caught this. So one thing with Joan that was interesting is that when she first does her like demonstration seance to show Annie that she's like interacting with her grandson, she's using the chalkboard and she's claiming that this was my way of connecting because this was my grandfather's chalkboard, right?
Hmm.
So one thing I caught on the second watch um, was that in the parking lot where she actually comes up and grabs Annie and like starts telling her about the seance thing.
She's putting the chalkboard in the back.
Yeah, in the back of the car is the chalkboard. Like she's lying her ass off. That is clearly not her grandson's chalkboard. So that's your first sign that this is all bullshit.
Well,
But-
here's the other sign that this is all bullshit. The seance. I'm sorry. I feel like this movie did not need the seance. Just let things progress a little bit more naturally and let it just
Mhm.
escalate. Because of again with Payman being inside Charlie, did you really need the seance to when Payman was already been released from his in a sense earthly prison?
So I didn't put it together per se, but in the story, they do make it seem like pretty much the seance is needed to escalate things because most of the batshit crazy things that start happening do happen after the seance. So the seance does actually somehow bring Payman not into this world, but it does something to where he now can do more. So it's so basically okay. Once once Charlie dies, it's kind of like Payman is just pretty much a free, emptyless, like no vessel, just a floating around spirit. I'm guessing, right? But then it's like some weird thing about where they need the seance to bring him back into where he can actually start really making moves and shit. So, I might have missed about like why they needed her to do the seance. It was like, it was needed because I mean, Joan had to lead her to do it. So the cult needed her to do the seance. But in story, I don't know if I ever picked up on
Is it
like
possible?
that was actually bringing Payman into the world somehow or something. So
Is it possible that because some demons kind of need of like a fear or a thought form in a sense to kind of give them extra power? What if and I hate to say this because I hate seances in movies, What if that seance was a way to get Annie's mind to believe everything is real to give Payman a little bit extra power?
Yeah.
And then when she got the rest of the family, sure, Steve didn't believe any of it. When she got Peter in, Peter's still young. He's still gonna believe what's going on. So his thoughts then also start kind of giving Payman some extra power.
Yeah. Again, yeah, because the whole thing here is like my understanding is that pretty much the more he breaks down this family emotionally, the more vulnerable they become, the more he can actually get into their bodies pretty much. So like it's a slow breaking down of things. Now, the husband, I would say this, the husband sees this seance, but he's still not on board with like weird shit going on. Um
I mean,
eh,
his first instinct, because he's also getting to the point where I think right before this he actually did have a conversation with Annie about how she is getting further and further away from him. I think he's getting to the point where he feels like he needs to protect Peter more than believe his wife's BS.
right. Yeah, but I mean, his wife's BS. I mean, he really does not want to believe any of this though. Like it's kind of like at a certain point, I mean, give your wife a chance, I feel like. But I
If
mean,
she's putting her if she is putting your son in danger, yeah, you ain't gonna believe it. Especially since notice how it took something that he again still had no real belief in. It took someone else's mistake to actually get him out of the picture
right, true.
because he was never targeted at all by Payman, or he's never seen Charlie. So I think it deals more with that thought form thing I was just talking about. Belief
I
is
think
what's giving Payman extra power.
Payman was always going to use him as like a sacrificial lamb, pretty much. I feel
Oh
like
yeah.
Payman was just like he's like a pawn on the board, but he's like the keys here are definitely the key to getting to Peter is going to be through the mom, not through the dad. So he was always going to use the dad to, I think, break down her
Annie.
Annie. Yeah. Um. So basically, roundabout, we get certain scenes where it's like, okay, so in the scene where Peter bashes his own face against the his desk in school, that apparently, I mean, again, just theorize is Payman making an attempt to get into him. Like, all right, let's see where Peter's at. Let's test this out. Let's see what's going on.
Well, it makes some
Gonna
sense
possess
considering the
him.
fact that I don't think a kid would do that on his own, especially with the faces he was making. His arm looked like it was about to twist and break off.
Yeah. So that's Payman's first attempt. Like, okay, is it gonna work? Let's do it. Let's try it. But no, it doesn't quite work yet. He's not quite there to where he can take over his body yet.
Maybe
So
if
now
he didn't slam Peter's, I don't know if it was Peter or Payman, but if he didn't slam his face into the desk, he probably would have been successful.
my theory is that Peter himself or Peter's subconscious, something slammed his face down to wake him out of getting
So you think,
possessed.
in a sense, it was Peter then?
Because why would okay if I'm paying, I'm taking over the body. Why am I going to damage the body? Why am I going to risk giving myself my new body brain damage by doing that? What makes sense is Peter's right there. He's possessed, right? And then something's like, okay, like snap out of it. Smash in the face is like what then makes Payman go away. Because afterwards, Peter starts screaming like, ah, like what happened? Like, just like his normal self. I think it was like some survival instinct of his body or his soul to like snap himself out of it.
Which
Because
this is where I want to also bring up your whole theory that certain people are in on it. Uh, these people, when he slammed his head into the desk, looked shocked, confused, and scared. If I was part of that cult and that happened, realizing Payman failed to possess him, I'd be pissed.
I mean, they might be both though. I don't know. I don't know. I mean, they could be both. I mean, I think that I think one thing's for sure. I don't think things are gonna work out between Peter and this girl because now she's seen him smash his own face against the desk. I think she's not thinking about a hot date anymore. So,
Well, and there's
but
also that
if
teacher you
it,
talked about. He was scared out of his mind when he saw the possession happening instead of looking happy.
yeah, but the cult knows they still have to play a role in the world. Like they
No
have
one was
to
looking at him.
they
He
have to
could he
react.
could have let he
He's
could have
he's
reacted.
the he's the teacher.
No
All
one
the
was looking at
students.
the teacher.
You're
Everyone was looking
ridiculous.
at Peter. No one was looking at that teacher.
Being ridiculous. Of course, people would look for the teacher's reaction.
No. Yeah,
Um,
when I watched that movie, I saw no one look at that damn teacher except the camera guy.
I mean, the girl looked horrified. So maybe,
At
but like I
Peter.
said, maybe, but no, I don't think it's maybe not pissed. They're horrified. They're like, oh my god, this didn't work, or they don't know. Who knows? Maybe they are such low level pawns that they don't get like the high information that everybody else does in the cult. Who knows? Like I said, it could be like with the kids. I feel like some of them are involved just by like their parents telling them, but maybe they're not full blown cult members yet. So maybe they're cult members in training. But yeah. So basically, now Payment's like, I gotta escalate this. It's not working yet. So now it's like the final thing of, all right, we're gonna get, we're gonna make Annie lose her mind, burn the husband, and then I burn the husband. She goes into shock, and now Payment can go into Annie. And
So
it plays out exactly like that.
so uh now we did kind of skip over the part where in this I do agree makes some sense that she thinks destroying that journal would have destroyed her instead, because when she did originally try it, she caught fire.
Mm-hmm.
But so I do understand it. It makes sense that she believe, okay, we destroy the journal, I die, but then all this stuff stops. When obviously that was a trick by Payman, because that CGI fire didn't burn her at all, because she didn't even look like she didn't even feel it until what, it got up her entire arm.
Mm-hmm.
So finally, when she throws it in, Steve burns completely alive, and I'm just thinking, ha!
Well, I was thinking like, who burns alive without screaming or moving? Like, what you would stop, drop, and roll, my man. He's just standing completely still, burning. I'm like, that's not a correct reaction to catching on fire. You would like jump on the ground and like like roll
That's one of
around.
that's one of the issues.
Oh!
That is one of the issues I'm having with this whole ending. This ending, compared to the rest of the movie we're getting, is ridiculous. There are certain things that they could have done to make this ending better, even with the ridiculous shit.
It's no longer grounded. It feels like you've been watching like a grounded family drama, and now these last 15 minutes are going to be like complete escalation into like a different style horror movie, basically, kind of thing.
Yeah, like the part where the mom is in the corner trying to pretend she watched Evil Dead Rise before Evil Dead Rise ever came out. She literally is just hanging out in the corner, and then she does the wall crawl, and I'm like, no, that wall crawl just looked ridiculous. It took me out of the whole ending of the movie. Actually, that was one of the things that took me out of the ending of the movie.
I was fine with the wall crawl, but I just like I would have preferred her just to forget the wall crawl, just have the thing where she just runs and chases them up to the attic.
Yeah, thank you.
Because it still feels grounded. Then when she's chasing them, I think it feels grounded.
And then
you get like some stuff. Her beating her head against the wall again, and like with a fast motion effect, it feels like a different movie. It feels like I'm watching Freddy's Dead all of a sudden. So
right, it was goofy. It was something I do not need to see in this kind of movie. Like maybe have Payman through Annie try to talk to Peter. That probably could have been decent. Or just the fact that she was randomly in the attic sawing off her head. You could have just cut to that instead of her slamming her head into the attic door 20,000 times. I mean,
yeah,
because I do like the effect, the whole bit, because that was creepy in my opinion. The whole her sawing off her head while staring daggers into Peter.
Well, that was yeah. I mean, that was like the ultimate. Okay, Peter, this is gonna be the final thing to make you vulnerable enough for me to get inside of you. You're gonna watch your mom basically decapitate herself, pretty much, and also obviously for Payman in this cult, there is a thing obviously about decapitations. Like that's a key thing here. The heads have to come off pretty much to make all this work.
Yeah, but
part of the sacrifices, they have to have the three heads, the grandmother, the mom, and the daughter have to all pretty much, whatever.
Now let's talk about this. There's one other. I mean, the cult members being there smiling. I understand that was supposed to be creepy, but for some reason, them being naked just made me laugh. I'm just like, that is not the face I want to see of a grown man smiling at a 17-year-old while butt ass naked. It's like, no,
Yeah,
this is
I
going to a spot I don't want it to go.
I'd chalk it up to the weirdness of cult. So cults do assume do weird ritualistic things. Maybe in their ritualistic thing, they were like, all right, there's one thing though, we gotta get
Well,
naked.
like I said, I understand
It's
it's to
it
be
looks
creepy.
again, it looks out of place. I agree, but
No, you
um,
know what makes it even more out of place?
yeah.
The headless body of the mom just floating into the tree.
You know, I'll say this. I mean, I went online to do some research afterwards, and there's a certain subsection of people for sure that do not approve of this ending for sure. If there's one complaint people have about Hereditary, some people do, is that the ending kind of goes off the rails a little bit. Um,
Well, it's because
I I knew story wise, I know the story has to go here. It has to go to basically Peter's possessed now and the cult wins. I know that's where it's going, but I agree that you could have done something better than this treehouse thing. Um, it does. There's a couple things that are ridiculous, like that the floating head thing, the naked people, ending the movie with just like "Hail Payman, Hail Payman." Again, that feels like I'm thinking of like uh the ending of Evil Dead 2, where they're like where Ash is like in the
and
just
the
yeah, it's clearly is going for the Rosemary's Baby ending, the Wicker Man
mhm.
ending,
Now,
heavily inspired by that.
to
But
be fair, the Wicker Man ending gave us a full ending. Rosemary's Baby gave us an open ending. I think this one gave us an open ending because I don't know about you, but the ending where we're apparently supposed to believe Payman is fully possessed Peter,
yeah.
I didn't get that. Judging by the face that was given to us, it was Peter's realization of he's he's fucked. Like I do agree he's going to be fully possessed soon, but I feel like I'm still looking at Peter, not at Payman.
So I I do think it was Payman, but I think it's like kind of so a couple clues here with that. So um okay, after Peter jumps out the window, right? They do a zoom down onto Peter's body, and then you see the blue light thing hovering over his body. So obviously
Hmm.
Payman's trying to get into his body. Um when Peter wakes up, the reason why I think it's Payman is because prior to Peter jumping out the window, most of like when anything scary happens, like his mom chasing him, all that, he's like, "Mom," he's like very reactive and very, whatever, whatever.
He's acting like Charlie, like a damn 12-year-old. Mommy, please stop doing this, mommy. That's the
Yeah.
other ridiculous bit for me is a
When
17-year-old acting like a 12-year-old.
when he wakes up, I do feel like it's a different version of Peter because he walks the treehouse and he goes in the treehouse. His reaction to me in the treehouse all is mostly like curiosity and shock almost. But I think they have Joan. I think Joan's in there basically giving like
Yeah,
an explanation to him. So Joan's basically like recapping to the demon like you are Payman. So I think there's something there where it's like when Payman gets into his body, it's almost like being reborn or something like that, where he's like, "Where am I? Who am I?" kind of thing, and like has to be reminded like, "Okay, you are Payman." Maybe some thing when he enters I think it's something there because she had to recap to him like, "You are Payman." So that made me think like, okay, he's like in shock, surprise, but he's gonna get it. But the entire time, the expression for Peter was never fear, nothing. So to me, it felt like just more of like a confused surprise, like somebody just waking up in a new body kind of feeling, versus like still Peter. I think Peter would have like still been kind of like freaking out and be like, "What the hell?" Like and maybe running away. But I think their intention is for it to be Payman, just but Payman is like wake up in a new body and doesn't know where he's at kind of thing. So
well, that honestly makes no sense in the context of the story. You're telling me Payman then after with everything Payman does in this movie, you're telling me once Payman enters the body, he suffers from amnesia.
I think when he enters into this body, the one that is supposed to be the one that they've put him in for good. I don't know. There's something to it because otherwise it wouldn't make sense why she has to give a speech to him about who he is. So she's basically bringing him up to speed. You are Payman. Do what? Blah 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 blah.
What
It's
if
it's
what if she's doing that to coax payment out because I mean they've had to do this ritual a couple of times already.
yeah.
And what if one of the parts is once payment gets to the body, most likely he's probably going to be slightly weaker because there it does take energy. We see it throughout the movie. It's going to be slightly weaker, so the other soul is still going to be in there. What if they're trying to coax payment
Oh,
out?
it could be a mix. The other thing that's kind of confusing is that uh Joan calls him Charlie. Joni
Mm,
still calls him Charlie. So some have theorized that maybe inside that body right now is like Peter, Charlie, and Payman, like a mix of all three of them. Maybe like he was in Charlie for so long that
three
he
heads,
carries some of Charlie with him. So he's
three
still, and
heads.
that's why it makes me think it's Pam because she's identifying him first as Charlie because he's like, where am I? Where am I? He's like Charlie. He knows the name Charlie. That's the body he was in. So I don't know. It's there's something to it. It's just for me, if it's full blown Peter still, I just feel like they made sure that he didn't give off like a scared reaction. It was just kind of like more confusion and like, where am I? It felt like to me, it felt like the Peter that was just in the attic, mommy is not the same one that's in the treehouse. It feels like a different personality altogether. So
It
that's what I
still
think.
doesn't make sense to me with it being payment because it still makes me think Payman has amnesia. Payman knows he just took over the body, so he shouldn't be so confused about being inside a new body. Unless you're
Maybe,
trying to say
maybe,
maybe it's Charlie that is confused and kind of taking over right now.
maybe
Because
it doesn't know.
Charlie would be confused.
Maybe it doesn't know. Maybe there is like a brief when he goes new body. Maybe there is a brief like where my period where like he has to like take a few minutes to gather himself to figure it out. I I see what you're saying. I mean, I guess it's played both ways, but the intention of the ending is that the cult wins and that Payment is hair. I mean, that's
Oh,
clearly the
I already knew
and
that.
and
I just
and
think
and they show Payment above his body when he's at that point he's emotionally devastated and he's just physically knocked himself out. It's like if Payment can't get into his body, then it's like I'm like, well, this shit's never gonna happen. So he just saw his mom chop his head off and he's physically messed up. But
no,
and I just
I
think that
do.
and I also think that again, like if Payman's so self-aware, he wouldn't need Joan to like give him a speech about like, who am I? You are Payman. You are this, you are that. Like she has no reason to like give him that speech. Otherwise, unless she thinks, okay, I have to bring him up to speed. So I don't know.
And why would she even need to think that? But did she give the same speech when she infested baby Charlie with payment? Or
Maybe.
did she speak of baby language when talking to payment that time?
I also I also think my theory that like when Payman's in a body, it's like kind of like it's a mix of him and the person. So it's like kind of like he gets to influence like what happens going forward? Like I said, it feels like to me like he can influence Peter, but it's still going to be a mix of Peter and Payman, right? It's like I don't know, it's weird.
Then would payment even be able to have the power to do what this cult wants out of him?
Yeah, like
I would
it's
assume so because there's a cult for a reason. So payment has done something to get this cult to follow him.
so I've read that the actual like maybe it's a fun project looking to, but if we research the actual what Payman is, apparently he's not like the ultimate demon badass. Like Payman apparently is like a kind of a mid level, not really that like it's not like he's gonna turn Earth upside down and like put hell on Earth. I mean, that's like, I guess my reading of what Payment is. It's like kind of like I mean, maybe he's gonna Peter goes to school the next day and cheats on his homework. No, not like low level, but I don't know if like this is gonna be like
Well, from the
Payment
sound,
taking over the world. So
no, it doesn't sound like that. It sounds like this cult believes payment is going to give them some kind of good fortune.
I think the idea is pretty much that. So the grandmother is convinced that this allows our family to even after we die, like in the afterlife, we get to like still like have a privileged life kind of thing. So that's why the grandmother's willing to die for it because she was like eternally we're gonna be our family is gonna be like in a good place eternally from doing this. So I guess like in her brain, like all the sacrifices, like even if they go to hell, like they're treated, let's say, properly in hell. I don't know what it is, but that's the idea. Um, so unless we get a Hereditary Part 2, I don't think we're gonna.
We ain't.
It's all gonna be their eyes.
I'm going to nitpick something real quick.
Yeah.
And it does deal with the seance bit, and it's, as I said, it's a nitpick, so it's a very small thing. But why the hell does Annie believe she's a medium after one little interaction with Joan and Joan's grandson, who's probably Payman, fucking with her?
Yeah.
Because her whole lines throughout the seance was weird. It's like, look, this happened at my friend John's. I am a medium. It's like, no, lady, she taught you how to do something that, to be fair, probably not actually going to work. It's just playing into their ideas. And no, you're not a medium. What you should have done is contact this fake medium, because obviously it was Joan that Joan was talking about. You contact that fake medium and be like, hey, what's going on here? I need some help.
Well, Joan was a master manipulator and got her headspace to a place where she's actually she's buying into it.
Well, yeah, but still, that was my nitpick with the whole seance lines. Is all the lines that Annie was bringing up is like making it sound like she's the medium. Like, no, lady, you're just haunted and fucked.
So I would have liked something more less culty at the end. I would have liked Peter goes out the window, right? You see the blue light, right? Have him wake up, but he's acting very strange. Have him walk into the house or walk into the attic, and he just puts the crown on, and just end with that. I would have done that over him, like getting the speech from Joan in the treehouse, and
That
then
would have made sense.
the hail thing. Just like tell the audience, like, yes, this is Payman. Like, have him put the crown on himself, but like not like in a kind of cheesy, like different, just
In a
a
sense, a show
different.
don't tell kind of thing, because we're told that this is payment, whereas what you wanted would show us it's payment.
And just like in a more, like I said, a good way that doesn't feel like kind of weird, like cheesy and stuff like that. Like I said, it would kill your complaint because we know the story is going to go here where he becomes Payman. It's just like, okay, how do you execute that in a good way?
And I feel like
Um,
they didn't execute. They executed it. I wouldn't say bad per se. It's just ridiculous for what we get. If the whole movie was like the ending, I actually would have no problems with this ending.
it's a movie that it's so grounded in the first half. It just feels like with this movie, the less like tell the story, but the less supernatural and the less like special effects, the less of that stuff, the better with this movie. Because it's like you don't want to go from like that first half of the movie to like people crawling on walls and like floating bodies and stuff like that. It's just like it feels out of place in this story. The less supernatural, like okay, so for example, one thing I would say is like after all we've seen, the ending, right? After everything you've seen, do you still feel like it's a possibility that this was all like mental illness, like the family did this to themselves? All we're all seeing basically a mental delusion kind of thing. Do you see any possibility of that? Because obviously you have to say then, okay, well, someone set the husband on fire and things like that. Um, but I think, I mean, it's like we had this complaint about The Witch a little bit too. Like, it's kind of one of those things where it's like,
You're showing too
if,
much for a movie that
if you,
you.
if you kill the supernatural part a little bit, you can actually leave it open ended to like, whoa, was this in their head or not? When you give us the definitive supernatural ending, you take away that little bit intrigue of like, was this in their head? Like,
No,
so I don't know.
I just want to bring up one other thing about that wall crawl special effect. The reason it looked bad to me is because, for what we see of this room, okay, you got
Hmm.
the wall, and then you got a dresser, and
Hmm.
then you go out the door. Yet
Hmm.
when we see the mom crawling, she doesn't adjust to go around the dresser. But it's like she's actually flying, but we see her doing
Hmm.
the crawling bits. So it's like, are you flying? Are you crawling? Why didn't you adjust for the dresser? What's going on here?
Well,
If she adjusted for the dresser, it probably wouldn't look as ridiculous as it did.
well, let's just call Payment a sloppy demon. So,
Well, apparently he
um,
is.
well, okay. So overall, I think that yes, it's certainly not a perfect movie by any stretch, and there's definitely some issues.
It
I will
could have
say,
been.
I will say, watching it, no, I don't think it'd have been perfect.
Nah,
But
if they kept it up with the same energy from the first half, it
no
could have
movie's
been a perfect movie.
no movie's perfect though. Get out of here. We would have found something. But I
Yeah,
was
and
saying,
you would have been pissed because I nitpicked it.
yeah, well, no, not even a nitpick. Just you did nitpick with the crying thing, but no.
Because he looks weird when he's crying.
uh, for
I
for
just have an
for
issue with the stone.
for the folks at home, we were talking about the acting before rolling, let's say, and like I was like, man, great acting, and Nick's nitpick was he was like, man, that kid though when he's crying, the body don't look right. I'm like, what
It
kind of
doesn't. He stands like a
judgmental crying
statue.
police? My
I
God.
told you, I know crying. Okay, I cry
even if
every day.
even if you are a crier, that doesn't mean you're watching yourself cry. So you can't necessarily know all the movements, how it looks natural.
Like when he was crying on the dad's shoulder, he should have been hugging his dad, not just standing completely fucking still, cocking his head in such a way that he's gonna have neck pain by the end of it.
Listen, I've told you time and time again, if the Children of the Corn movies are gonna make you cry, stop watching them, all right? I mean, why are you
I
crying
can't
every
help it
day?
when our God, the one who walks behind the rose keeps losing.
They they're never gonna win, so just let it
When
go.
our Lord and Savior America from Elden Ring can't be reborn.
Listen, there's no hope there's no hope for Isaac, right? Move on with your life, right? Isaac's not coming back. There's no revenge, nothing,
Well,
all right?
definitely not after 666. Trust me on that.
Oh, oh god. No, but yeah, but on the bigger point, nitpick aside, yes, this is one of those movies where you realize the bias against horror movies out there because this movie did not win awards. This movie did the acting. There was no acting awards for Toni Collette, but you can't tell me there was five better dramatic female performances that year than her. She should have got nominated for an Oscar at least. And she should. I mean, I think she might have got nominated for Sixth Sense, which is like, yeah, I don't know why that was treated like a non-horror movie and got respect, but Hereditary got no respect.
It's because
Um,
Sixth Sense is classified more as a thriller.
yeah. The other thing too is like this is the first movie. Impressive enough, this is a first time director doing this. So I think the name is Ari Aster. I think I'm gonna say. Let me make sure. I want to make sure I get his name right.
Tell me,
Uh,
you
yeah,
want this?
no,
No.
I'm good. Yeah, Ari Aster, the director. Um, I mean, he took a long time with this movie, and then since then he's done Midsummer and Beau is Not Afraid. But in these sort of the A24 thing, you have basically him and Robert Eggers. Robert Eggers who did The Witch, Night House, not Night House, Night Watch,
Lighthouse,
Lighthouse. These movies sound the same.
Night Watch.
These are
That's an
like
old movie.
these are the two modern sort of horror directors, along with Jordan Peele, where those three are like the most celebrated modern horror directors, I would say. They each take a couple years to do each movie. They spend a lot of time on the script. You have that same formula, the big dramatic. The movies are very long, dramatic. But this director definitely is really heavily, oh, my microphone, very heavily inspired clearly by movies like The Wicker Man, Exorcist, um, certainly Rosemary's Baby. Rosemary's Baby feels like the grandmother of all these movies. But props to him on his directing because, like I said, there's a 4-hour YouTube video that goes in the details and like there's a lot of Easter eggs throughout the movie that suggests what's going on and stuff. And a lot of stuff is just left up for you can theorize they're in the cult, not in the cult. So that's a good movie when it leaves you with a lot of questions about who's doing this, who's doing that, and what's going on there. Um, but certainly not a perfect movie. Like I said, me and Nick both had some issues with the ending. And
Mostly the ending.
yeah. But still strongly recommended. I mean, if you're watching this, you're a horror fan, you've definitely already seen it. So there's no point in recommending it. You've already watched it, already made up your mind about it.